Dre all day.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That's the go-getter energy that moves all of us to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one masterclass, one bundle, one show. And it is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic, early is on time. On time is late. And late has to be forgotten, discarded, deleted, canceled, outsourced, downsized, right-sized. Today's topic is about time, the most valuable resource that we have. It's also about discipline. And it's about showing yourself and others respect for the job that you're in. And the job could be your life. The job could be an actual job that you work at. The job could be a company that you own and you have people working for you. The job could be you running your own personal business and you're the only person working there. Nobody knows what time you showed up at all, but it's about showing yourself the respect for the things that you're doing. Again, the topic, early is on time. On time is late and late is forgotten. Maybe you've heard that before. Maybe you apply it. Maybe you know it, but you don't always apply it. I know a lot of people who have heard that phrase, but they do not apply it. They don't do things early. They're rarely even on time. Almost everything that they do, they say, I'm going to do it a certain time, but then it actually ends up happening at a later time. They said they're going to do it on this day, but it doesn't happen on that day. It happens some days later, or it doesn't happen at all. I want you to understand that if you're going to show you're going to show respect to yourself, to your business, to the time, the most valuable resource that you have being your time, then you need to start applying this not only logically, because logically you already understand it. You heard it before. You just heard me say it twice already. But do you understand it emotionally? When you understand something emotionally, that means you will act on it. When you understand something logically, that just means you understand it. That means you know it. And if somebody says it, you can repeat it, and you can say where you heard it from or something like that, or you can post it on Twitter. That doesn't mean anything. Are you actually applying it? Or are you implementing it? Because if you were, then look, you would be giving this lecture. So let's get into it. Today's topic is early is on time is late, and late is forgotten. Point number one. I had a health teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Sadek. And he would always say this. He would just randomly say it. He'd be talking about something completely different. And then he would pause in his talking, and then he would just go on a tangent. And he said this several times over the course of a school year. He would say, if you ever have a job interview, and we're in high school at this time, so many of us didn't have jobs. I did, but many of us didn't. He said, if you ever have a job interview, make sure you're 15 minutes early to the interview. And the reason why is so that you know that they know that you're thinking about it. And he went on to explain, I don't know if he ever explained this as much, but I'll explain it, and is that being early for something, especially when you're dealing with other people, especially when those people have a position of power over you, or you're hoping that they do something for you or with you, it's a sign of respect to the job that you're early. It's a sign of respect, letting them know, listen, this matters enough to me that even though the interview's at 9 o'clock, I'm going to get here at 8:45 because I want you to know how much this matters to me. That I'm going to take 15 extra minutes and make sure I'm here before you're even ready. And I want you to know that they notice this. They know when you're early, and they know when you're on time. And if you're late, you might as well not even show up. One of my college basketball coaches said to us, listen, I expect everybody to be 15 minutes early and ready to play every single day at practice. So, and then he went on to make sure he gave an example so that nobody could claim ignorance. He said, if practice is at 4 o'clock, that means you need to be dressed on the floor and ready to practice at 3:45. And he explained further. He said, I want to make sure everybody understands that being early doesn't mean you're walking into the building at 3:45. No, at 3:45, you need to be on the court and ready to practice. We could start practice at 3:45 and everybody's ready. Not you're in the locker room at 3:45. Not you're on the court tying your shoes at 3:45. You're on the court and ready to practice 15 minutes before the set practice time. So let me tell you what happened one day. This only happened one time all season. And this is the only time it happened damn near with anybody on the team. I don't think over the course of a whole season, and any of you who's played a sport, you know how many practices there are every single day. I mean, over the course of the year, how many practices there are? There's a lot of practice, hundreds of practices, or at least 100 or something. I don't think there was ever a single day when a player showed up late. Nobody ever showed up late. Like one guy was late, everybody else was on time, and then that player had a punishment or something like that. That never happened. There was just one day though, one day when everybody was late. I don't remember what happened. I can't remember the context around it, and usually I'm good with remembering stuff like this, but I don't remember the context around it. Maybe we had been on a losing streak, or maybe we had 2 practices the day before, or maybe we were out late the previous night from a game or something. I don't remember what happened. But one particular day, I do remember this happening. We all walked into the gym at it was about 20 minutes before practice was supposed to start. It wasn't even 20 minutes. It was probably about 17 minutes. Meaning, let's say practice was at 4 o'clock. Everybody was walking in the gym at like 3:43. And mind you, the time is 3:45. You get there at 3:45, that's the time you're supposed to be on the court ready to play. So we're walking in the building at like 3:43, not even dressed yet. And as we walk in, one of our assistant coaches, his name was Gene, he was like, yo, you all got like 2 minutes to be dressed and on the court and ready to go. And we all kind of just sauntered in. We walked in and I don't know what was going through our heads that day. I can't remember why we were all like this, but it was a bunch of us on the team at the same time doing this. And we all kind of took our time. We get on the court when we get on the court. And we ended up getting on the court at about 3:50. So we were technically 5 minutes past the early time. Now I want to tell you what happened that day. Because the head coach, he was standing there watching us walk in the gym the day that we walked in, so close to the time. He didn't say anything, but he was watching us as we all walked in. And then all of us sauntered onto the court at like 3:50, which is 5 minutes after the stated time he told us that we better be ready for practice every day. We ran so many conditioning drills that day. I had never done that much running in a basketball practice ever in my life, and I don't think I've ever done that much running since. That's all we did for about an hour to 2, probably about an hour and a half straight. All we did was conditioning drills. We did not work on any plays. We did not talk strategy. We did not do any shooting. We didn't do anything other than just run up and down that basketball court in waves for an hour and a half. And that was the coach's way of letting us know. I think he only basically said one thing, which was like, yo, what time are we supposed to be on the court? And everybody knew that we were late. We all knew we were late when we got on the court, but it was so deep into the season, and we were so used to just getting there at that time and everything being fine that I don't know. I just thought we had temporary blindness, that maybe we thought the coach wasn't going to say anything, but he absolutely said something. Well, he said something through that whistle. And through that whistle, he had us running so many conditioning drills that day. It was crazy. But one thing I can say is that we were all in great shape after doing all those drills. When you have a high level of respect for what you're doing, whether that's you as a member of a team, you as an owner of a business, or you just being a boss of yourself, because every organization must have a boss, as quoted by Malcolm X in his autobiography. When you have respect for what you're doing, you're early for it. You know why? Because it's a priority. If you have a job interview and you're really excited about that job and you're serious about getting that job and you want to show the job that you want the job, and they're looking at 20 other people that they might hire and they're only hiring 3 of you, you show up early for the job interview. Why is that? Because it matters to you, because it's a priority to you, because it's important to you, and you want them to know that it's important to you. And listen, we all know that words are a dime a dozen, right? We know this, right? I mean, how many times have you had somebody say something to you and they were talking all this shit, all these things they were going to do, they're making all these promises, and they didn't even do it? All right, we've all had that happen to us, and let's keep it real. We probably have all done it to other people too, right? So you can't convince somebody that something's important to you by the things that you say, because these days, I mean, they're not even a dime a dozen. Words are like a dime for like 3 dozen. All right, words mean absolutely nothing these days. Anybody can say anything, and they don't have to believe it. They don't have to stand on it. Don't have to be held accountable for it. You just say whatever the fuck you want. If you want to show somebody you're serious about something, don't talk them to death about how serious you are. Show them through your actions. The most valuable resource we all own is our time. So the best way you can show someone that you're serious about something is with your time. By giving your time, by showing up early, by respecting whatever it is that's going on, by making sure you take time out of your day, out of your life, to give it to that thing because it's so important to you. That's how you show respect, by being early. So those of you who, everybody here does some kind of work, right? You go to school, or you play a sport, or you run a business, or you work at a company, you have a job. Are you getting there early every day? Or are you getting there right on time? Are you getting there right at the exact moment that you're supposed to be there? You're supposed to be there at 11, so you get there at 10:59, you're walking in. Is that what you're doing? You run a business. Maybe it's just you. And you're supposed to be working from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. What time do you start working? Are you actually starting your work at 9 a.m. on the dot, or are you getting there at 8:45? Now you might wonder, well, why the hell does it matter, Dre? If it's just me, nobody knows about it. No, I don't have a set schedule. Nobody's holding me accountable to it. Why do I need to be early? Well, let me tell you something. If you need to ask that question, you might be doing the wrong job. If something's important to you, you give time to it. And the most respectful thing you can do with your time is to be early for something that's scheduled. Because again, you're letting the other person know, whoever else is involved, you're letting them know how serious it is to you. You're letting them know how much it matters to you. And if you're late for something that somebody else is in charge, listen, you might not get another chance to be on time. In the NBA, for example, for a team that's playing on the road, so let's say the Miami Heat is playing a road game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So they're staying in a hotel in Minnesota that's somewhere close to the arena, but it's not right next to it. So they usually take buses. There are 2 buses that leave the hotel on the day of the game for the players and coaches and everybody to get to the arena. They call one the early bus, and the other one is the late bus, right? 2 buses. Now, usually on the early bus, the way that it works is that the rookies or players who don't play a lot, they usually take the early bus over to the arena. The reason why, and the buses leave maybe an hour apart from each other. The rookies and the guys who don't play a lot, they usually take the early buses, or maybe the assistant coaches who are kind of lower on the totem pole. They go early so they can get to the arena and they can kind of get some extra work in before the festivities of the actual game begin. Because the rookies oftentimes are players who don't play much, and or they haven't proven themselves enough to not get there early. Or you got the guys who sit at the end of the bench, they don't really play a lot, so they get to the gym early along with some of the assistant coaches, and they kind of go through a whole workout and maybe damn near a game's level of exertion before the game, because they have a reasonable expectation that they probably won't play much in the game. So they get there early so they can get that work in. Then the late bus, you'll have maybe the head coaches, the top coaches on the staff, the veteran players, the players who are proving themselves, maybe the older guys who play a lot in every game. So they're not going to get a whole workout in before the game. They're going to warm up and do their thing, but they're not going to get a whole workout in. So they take what they call the late bus. Okay, so you got the early bus and you got the late bus. Now there's this guy who used to play in the NBA. He actually played for the Miami Heat for a couple years. He goes by the name of Ray Allen. And many of you probably know who Ray Allen is if you watch basketball. He made one of the most iconic shots in the history of the NBA, in the NBA Finals, when he made that, I believe it was Game 6 against the San Antonio Spurs 2013, made the shot that sent the game into overtime. The Heat ended up winning Game 6, and then they go on to Game 7, beat the Spurs, and win the championship. Had he not made that shot, the Heat would have lost the Finals that year. But Ray Allen was known as a guy who, people like to throw around this phrase OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD is actually you had to be diagnosed with that as an actual disease, an actual affliction. But people like to throw that around like as a kind of like a colloquialism, but it's not to be thrown around that way. I don't know if Ray Allen actually had been diagnosed with it, but people call Ray Allen one of the most, quote unquote, the most OCD, close quote, players out there, because he was a guy who, he would warm up the exact same way every game. He wore his clothes the exact same way. He would greet his teammates in the locker room the exact same way every day. If anything got taken out of place, anything in the routine got changed, he would notice it, and he was very anal retentive about these type of things. This was his reputation. And if you read any articles about Ray Allen, you'll see this. And Ray Allen actually wrote a book. I haven't read it yet. I have it, but I haven't read it yet. I need to read it. Now that I'm talking about him, it reminds me. Ray Allen Now, he was known as a great shooter. I believe to this day, as of this recording, he is still the NBA's all-time leader in three-point shots made. Now, he's not going to stay that because there's a guy named Steph Curry and a guy named Klay Thompson, another guy named James Harden. They're probably all going to pass him as long as they keep playing for a few more years. And they shoot a whole lot more threes now than they did in Ray Allen's time. But Ray is one of the greatest players of all time. I believe he's already in the Hall of Fame or he's on his way. Now, Ray Allen, I'm telling you all that about Ray Allen to tell you this. You had these two buses, as I already told you, the early bus and the late bus. You know when Ray Allen would get to the gym? Let me ask you, before I even tell you, what time do you think Ray Allen would get to the gym? You got the early bus, you got the late bus. Which bus would Ray Allen get on? Being that he was such a great shooter. Later in his career, he was a veteran. He was an all-star. He had been an Olympian, won a gold medal. He had proven himself in the league. He was the greatest three-point shooter of all time in terms of volume. He had made a game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. What time was Ray Allen getting to the gym? Tough question, right? It was actually a trick question because Ray Allen didn't take the early bus, and Ray Allen also did not take the late bus. Ray Allen, when they were on the Miami Heat or whatever team he was on the road, Ray Allen would order a cab. So this is before Uber, y'all. He would call a cab and have the taxi take him to the gym before the early bus. So he was getting there before the early guys got there. He got there. Why? So he could get his work in. Because he liked, according to the stories, I wasn't his teammate, so I can't verify. But according to the stories, Ray Allen liked to get his work in alone with nobody else on the court. And that was his routine. So he would get to the gym way early. The game might be at 7 o'clock. Ray Allen would be in the gym at like 3 o'clock, working on his game on his own just so he could get his routine in without anybody bothering him. And those of you who watch basketball, you remember that not that last game, but that game when he made that big shot. Ray Allen actually practiced this stuff. He practiced backpedaling to the three-point line and making sure his feet were in the perfect right spot just to make that shot. Making the shot in the corner, backing into the corner just to hit that three. And again, any of you who watches basketball or has played basketball, you know the space in the corner area of a basketball court to make what they call the corner three-pointer. That space is not very big. It's not a very wide space to where you are, first of all, behind the line, but also not standing out of bounds. That space is quite small. And for you to backpedal into that spot and have your feet in the right spot without stepping on the sideline or the baseline, which will make you out of bounds, and not stepping on the three-point line, which will make it a two-pointer instead of a three-pointer, that requires precision footwork. Ray Allen would practice backing up to the three-point line in the corner just in case there was one time he might have to shoot that shot. And guess what? He had one time to shoot that shot, and he made it. And that one shot, Ray Allen's going to go down in history for that one shot. That's the one thing. If people only remember one thing about Ray Allen, it's going to be that shot. All the years of work he put in, that one shot. And they also said that Ray Allen would practice things like being on the ground. Like he would practice, like let's say he fell down, but then he had to get up really quick and scramble to the three-point line to make a shot. He would practice that. So he would sit on the floor, get up off the floor, and practice his footwork of getting up, getting to the three-point line, catching the ball, and shooting it and making it. Those are the kind of things that he would practice. That's what people call, that's how he got the reputation for being this OCD guy. Again, I don't know if he had OCD, but you get the point that I'm saying. And you can YouTube the shot that he made in the finals to help the Heat win it all. And I'm telling you all that to tell you this. He only had one chance to make that shot. And many of you younger basketball fans, you don't remember Ray Allen from anything else other than making that one shot. But that one shot, was it worth it? Was taking that cab, all those taxis that, let's say that was a $25, $30 taxi ride every time he did it, every road game. 41 road games a year times 10, 15 years he played in the league. Do the math on that. Was it worth it? That one shot for him to be remembered for it? I would say yes, but you got to decide on your own. Is it worth it to be early? The investment that you have to make to be early all the time and make that part of your reputation just for the one chance that you might get to show off what you've been doing. Point number 2. Today's topic is early is on time is late, and late is to be forgotten. Second point is on time is late when you are an A player. We talked about putting A players on your team. If you didn't hear that masterclass about adding A players to your team, let me see where it is. Masterclass number 1388. Why you must fill your team with A-level players. Do you have A-level players on your team? Are you an A-level player? Whether you're a player or you're the person running the team, whether you're the coach, you're the boss, you're the manager, Are you an A-level player? Because if you're not going to recruit any A-level players. What A-level player will pay for a B-level coach? Not too many, at least not for long. I also told you the characteristics of level 10 people in masterclass number 870, so I suggest you refer yourself to both of those. When you're an A player, being on time is what the average people do. That's what the masses do. And if you're an A-level player, you don't do what the average people do. On time is when you say the meeting or the job interview or the work shift starts at 4 and then you walk in at 4. All right, that's what most people do. Here's the problem of what most people do is that most people are average. Most people make up the masses. Most people make up the bottom of the pyramid of life and the pyramid of anything else you do. So my question to you is that where you wish to reside? Do you wish to reside at the bottom of the pyramid along with everybody else, quote unquote, everybody else? On time people, this second level of people, these average individuals, these are the type of people who say something like, I did what I was supposed to do. Or they say something like, I didn't do anything wrong. Or they say something like, I'm just doing my job. All right, all of those are average individual quotes. If you find yourself using those quotes or even thinking those quotes, you are thinking like an average individual. You're thinking like a C-level player. And listen, there's nothing wrong with being a C-level player if you want to live your life at the C level. I'm not talking about C level like the ocean. I'm talking about C like the letter C. Not doing anything wrong means you're not doing anything right. Doing what you're supposed to do means you didn't go above and beyond. Just doing your job means you're not doing anything else. All right, that's what average people do. And they think this is okay. See, average people justify themselves by saying things like that. A-level players would never make these kind of statements. So if you plan on being an A-level player, but you've been using these statements, stop using them. You find yourself saying things, you're not doing anything exceptional. And if you plan on standing out from everybody else, you must be exceptional. Masterclass again, 1388. When you have A players on your team, let me tell you what A players do. A players do things without being told. A players do things you don't have to ask them to do them. An A player notices that something's wrong, they fix it, then they tell you after they fixed it that, hey, I noticed this was wrong and I fixed it, don't worry about it, it's taken care of. That's what an A-level player does. An average level player, you know what they do? They notice that something's wrong and either they don't say anything and don't do anything, or they come tell you that something's wrong and ask you, hey, what should I do? Or they tell you that something's wrong and they don't even ask you what should they do because they don't want anything to do with it. They just want to let you know. That's what average people do. Which one are you? An A-level player fixes a problem when they see it and they don't wait for someone to give them permission. They don't ask anyone, should I fix it? They just go fix it because they know that's the right thing to do. I gave you the greatness equation in Masterclass 1103. People who want to be great, they know they got to be the exceptions. That means they got to do things that most people aren't doing. Which means taking initiative, fixing something that you see as a problem without somebody telling you to do it, without anybody having to ask you to do it, without it being so obvious that everybody notices. You just fix it before it even becomes an issue, and you might not even say anything. You just fix it because that's what you do. A-level players see issues before you see them, handle them without you even knowing that there ever was an issue. You don't even know that they fixed the problem. See, an A-level player, they may fix something and let you know that they fixed it because they just want you to know that they fixed something. But super A-level players, an A-plus person, they'll fix a problem and you'll never even know that the problem ever even existed because they just handle it, fix it, and they don't say anything. They don't tell you. They don't publicize it. They don't make a big deal out of it. They don't want any type of recognition for it. They just fix it. Why? Because that's what A players do. That's just what they do. So they don't see it as something that needs to be broadcast. Players, A-level players are in the early group, that early bus. Point number one, as I talked about. Average level players, level C players, they wait for you to tell them what to do. They don't make your job any easier. They don't make your job any harder. They're neutral. A-level players, the people who get there early, these are the people who make your job easier. All right, the people who, when you bring them in for a job interview, they're 15, 20 minutes early. They're the people who, when you hire them, they're going to make your job easier just because they're there. And you might have to pay them a little bit more money, but they're worth it because you make back in multiples whatever you had to pay them. The people who get there early. People who get there on time, they don't make your job any harder, but they don't make it easier either. They're pretty much neutral. They're the people who allow you to tread water. You pretty much are in the same spot no matter what they do. You don't want too many average people on your team, because if you got a lot of average people on your team, then that's telling you something not about your team, but about you, because something you're doing is attracting these individuals to keep showing up. Probably because you're average. Point number 3. Today's topic is early is on time. That was point number 1. On time is late. Point number 2. Number 3, to be late is to be forgotten. Deleted, outsourced, downsized. What's the other things they can do to you? Laid off, gotten rid of, fired, deleted, canceled. That's what happens when you're late. People who are late, and I'm using this metaphorically but also literally, people who are late are the F players. All right, y'all know what an F is in school, right? When you get an F in school, that's not good. That means you got to take it again. You got to take that class all over again. You get left back. You got to repeat the 2nd grade when you get an F. F players are the people who do nothing at all even after you told them what to do. Now, the A players do something without you saying anything. The C players, they do something when you tell them to do something. The F players do nothing when you tell them to do something. These are the people who make you feel like you're running a daycare. You're running an adult daycare center when you got too many F players on your team. Actually, the same thing when you got the C players. The average people, it's like running a daycare, because you got to watch over them and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. These are the people, these F level players, the people who are late, they make your job harder just by their very presence. Just by being there, your job is a lot harder just because they exist. These are people who are bringing you down and sending you backwards. I heard Jay-Z once talk about, he had this artist signed to his label, and he dropped this artist off of his label, and one of the reasons, he never talked that much about this artist and why he had gotten rid of her, but he said, the reason I got rid of her is because she was coming to the studio late. Jay-Z was saying, look, at the level of success that I'm at, and this was at the height of Jay-Z's success, he said, there's no reason why I, Jay-Z, should be getting to the studio before anybody else who's on his label. I'm the biggest star in rap music. So how are you getting to the studio after me? How is that possible? Harking back to what I told you about the NBA having an early bus and a late bus. There was a time when on the Washington Wizards, there was this guy named Dre Baldwin. He was a player on the Wizards who obviously was very talented, but I think people would agree he was pretty much an underachiever in his career. And there was one day I read this story on a blog that Dre Baldwin got on a late bus one day to come to the arena for a game, and his teammate, a guy by the name of Antoine Jameson, who had been an all-star, I think he was an all-star once or twice in the league, but he was a highly respected veteran, Antoine Jameson. He came over to Dre Baldwin in the locker room one day and said, yo, what are you doing taking a late bus to the game? Like, why are you on a late bus? I understand why some players are on it, but why you? You haven't proven anything. You haven't done anything in this league. You're on a late bus. And he asked Dre Baldwin a couple questions. He said, man, you got a maximum contract in this league that tells you you're qualified to take the late bus, that you shouldn't be getting here early? He said, did you make the All-Star game this year for you to be taking a late bus to the game? And these were rhetorical questions he was asking his teammate, but it was his way of letting him know, like, yo, you don't have the accomplishments under your belt to be showing up late. You should be getting here early. You should be in the cab with Ray Allen. But you're getting here late as if you've accomplished something. You haven't accomplished anything. And it's the same thing that Jay-Z was saying when he got rid of one of his artists, because the artist was getting to the studio after him. He's like, yo, what have you accomplished to be getting to the studio late? You haven't done anything. I've done more than you, and I'm getting here before you. That makes no sense. So now we got to get rid of you. Understand that the person who is late to an opportunity in life, you're actually not late to the opportunity. You just completely miss the opportunity. All right, opportunity doesn't wait around for the people who show up late. All right, by the time you show up, if it's late, all right, you won't even know that there was an opportunity, because the opportunity's gone already. It was taken by the early people, took most of it, and then the crumbs got left to the people who got there on time. People who are late, they don't even know what happened. Or you might get left with some scraps, some crumbs, some bones left over from the people who got there before you. Don't be late. All right, being late is costly. It's expensive to be late. Let's recap today's topic, which is to be early is on time is late, and late is forgotten. This is about time, discipline, and showing yourself and others the same respect, or showing them respect for the job that you're in. Point number one, I had a health teacher in high school would always say, when you have a job interview, be 15 minutes early so that you know that they know that you're thinking about it. It's a sign of respect for the job when you show up early. My college basketball coach said, the practice is at 4, everybody better be on the court and ready to practice at 3:45. And if you're not, there will be hell to pay. In the NBA, there are road games, 2 buses, the early bus and the late bus. Ray Allen took the early taxi before the early bus because the early bus wasn't early enough, just so he could work on his shot and all these scenarios that he would think up in his mind where he might need to make a shot, and he got one chance to do it, and he made one of the most iconic shots in the history of basketball. Point number 2, on time is late when you're an A player. A players are the people who get there early. A players are the people who see things, handle them. People who get there early, see things, handle them, don't even tell you that they handle them, or they just let you know that they handle them. You don't have to do anything. They make your job easier. On-time people are the average people, the masses. These are the people who show up at 4 when they're supposed to be there at 4. These are the people who live at the bottom of the pyramid of life, holding up the pyramid for everybody else. Is this where you want to live? On-time people do things like say, I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just doing my job. These are what average people say. Masterclass number 1388. I told you about the A players in life. People who get there on time, these are the C players, level C guys. All right, these are the people who they handle things only if you ask them to handle things, and they might not even do a good job of it. These are the people who are average. They don't make your job any easier or harder. They're neutral, but they help you. You basically stay neutral with these people. But you already know, as I've told you many times, no such thing as neutral in life. You're either getting better or getting worse. So technically, when you're dealing with a bunch of neutral individuals, you're getting worse. And point number 3, to be late is to be forgotten. People who are late are the F players. They do nothing. Even after you tell them what to do, they mess it up. All right, these are the people who make you feel like you're running an adult daycare center. They make your job harder by their very presence. Jay-Z dropped an artist from his label because the artist was getting to the studio later than Jay-Z. Jay-Z said, I've accomplished 100 times more than you. Why am I getting here early and you're getting here late? It makes no sense. Got rid of her. The person who is late to an opportunity misses the opportunity. They don't even know that they're late to it because they never saw the opportunity in the first place. They only get left with the scraps left over from the early people who take most of it. They leave the crumbs for the people who are on time, and the people who are late don't even know that there was a meal on the table in the first place. You got to ask yourself, what time are you showing up? And then again, I mean this literally. I also mean this metaphorically for what you're doing with your life. On time, to be early is to be on time. On time is late, and late is forgotten. If you're late, you might as well not even show up in the first place. Work on your game. Dre all day.